Hi, my name is Jacob Hamil. I'm with Hamil Bros Studios, and I was the HUD designer for the console and Kaya's ship on the movie Alone.
Oh, real actual person. Wish I could say I'm sitting in a rescue crew, but I'm in the same situation you are.
A HUD is a heads-up display, which is any kind of interactive console that you see in movies like Minority Report or the inside of Tony Stark's helmet. They're a pretty integral part of sci-fi movies nowadays.
I'm Ross Hamil with Hamil Bros Studios, and I was on the VFX team for Alone, and my primary job was compositing the screen elements onto the various screens throughout the film. In the beginning stages, William reached out to us and sent us a rough cut of Alone. Like, sound wasn't done, color wasn't done, visual effects weren't done, and he just wanted our feedback on, if we just liked the story. And at that point, we weren't looking at getting involved, and we watched it and loved it and said, "Hey, William, how do we get involved?"
This HUD design was a lot of fun to put together. We had just kind of started the lockdown here in Texas. So when William came to us and said, "Hey, do you want to do screen replacement for this film?" That would mean designing the HUDs, designing any kind of interactive digital console stuff that they had in it. I was like, yeah, I have ideas. One of his few notes was, I want it to feel like it's old futuristic technology. It's a little dated because Kaya's been out as an engineer on this ship that she was ejected from for a while. This is an older life pod kind of situation. When I began designing this console, I was actually playing a lot of Doom Eternal at the time, which their console was pretty influential on my design for Alone. I wanted to have a modular control surface that Kaya could interact with, and anytime that she looks at it, she's got a snapshot of what this entire life pod is doing. With that, there were a lot of design elements that I created that never got any screen time, but they were broken down into the modules that helped build the overall interface.
Enough juice to keep me from getting swallowed up.
Biggest and probably most key component of it was the communication page. It's pretty central to the whole entire film because Kaya is alone. And for a lot of it, probably half, I think, it's actually its own character. We don't know who Hammer is. We just know that she's getting these transmissions. And so a lot more work went into designing that page because it had to engage the audience in a way that kind of makes you have a connection when you don't have a face to put with a voice. Color was also a big deal. I didn't want a whole lot of different colors, but there were specific colors that made a point. Like when Kaya's recording her response to Hammer, or the unknown guy, it's red because red is record. I mean, that's like a universal thing. So it was to keep it simple for the audience in terms they could understand, but then before she knows who Hammer is, it's yellow. So she's getting these unknown transmissions from somebody. Once Hammer's established, we changed the playback to blue, and that actually kind of hints at later, blue seems to be Hammer's color for inside his cape. The last thing on the communication page that you may or may not notice is that there's actually a subtitling factor that's going on the whole time. So you can actually read what Hammer's saying and what Kaya's saying because the machine, as I felt it would, was interpreting that and writing it out line by line.
Wow, that sounds really egotistical when you say it out loud, doesn't it?
Every single element in that console was all designed in Adobe After Effects. A lot of designers like to go into Illustrator and build basic bones and stuff. I suck at Illustrator, and I was like, I know I can get this done in After Effects the way that I want to, because it's one of the first places I started designing. We didn't have a whole lot of time to complete these graphics and this design because we were brought in a little bit late in the post game. So Red Giant Universe saved me so much time. Instead of trying to figure out how I was going to design this piece of the module or this bit of the interface, I got to use their HUD element designs, and then I could tweak them to what I wanted rather than wasting all the time to build it from the ground up.
When it came to doing the screen replacement, I think a lot of people envision screen replacement as, just a clean cut, green screen on a monitor, and you just corner pin, maybe a little bit of glow, but this film was not that. They did have the green screen in the console for some of it, but the motion tracking was difficult because of the anamorphic D-squeeze, and there was a lot of rotoscoping that had to be done because Kaya's touching the console and her hand is so close that there was green bleed around her hand, and just all of those challenges. Had it not been for the Red Giant VFX suite, specifically Spot Clone Tracker and the Kingpin Tracker, those two saved my bacon. But there was a focus pull, and I had to not just match the blurriness of the screen going out of focus to focus on Kaya's reflection in the screen, but also with the anamorphic, I had to de-squeeze the focus so that the focus actually pulled out properly. Like, I sent it to William, and he didn't even notice, which I think when your director doesn't notice an effect, that's when you know it was properly executed.
Put me even closer than before.
When we were communicating with William, he gave us a lot of freedom, and one of those things was Hammer's console once Kaya gets to the cave and watches his final selfie video, for lack of a better term. And Jacob did most of the HUD design, but I designed this one. I kind of wanted to give a nod back to the Master Control program and Tron and the way it communicated with the users. And so I very much designed it around the old green dot matrix screens because it looked like Hammer had just piecemealed this thing together. He didn't have the technology he really needed to, send super high quality video across time. Feed into that, his selfie video, once it shows up on the screen, was something we kind of had to work through with Dan Edwards, the colorist. For me to composite that, I couldn't composite it and break it up into pieces to send to them to be colored. So I got to give props to Dan. He was very open and gracious, sending me his Resolve power grades for that shot. It kind of hurt to take William's footage and make it look that bad for the screen, but that's what the story called for. So I didn't feel bad for very long.
I want to go for a walk.
In the end, I feel like there are, to a degree, with any project, you hit the final renders, the movie's made, and you're like, thank God that's over with. And this project really wasn't like that. It was very fulfilling for it to be over with, but there wasn't just this big sigh of relief. Because for one thing, working with William and working with Dan and the rest of the people in the post team that we interacted with, they were all super great to work with, and I would go as far as to say they were a dream team. This all happened during the beginning of the COVID panic lockdown. Everybody felt like the world was collapsing, and it was nice because it gave us something. Not just something to do, something fun to do that we could feel really good about getting done.